yo, Lord Roller aka Mega Butts. In today's video, I'm looking at quite an interesting deck. This has been my pet project for the last couple weeks, kind of combining Spidops EX with Grimmsnarl. I really wanted a deck that did damage based on retreat cost. I thought it was always interesting that some Pokemon have a high retreat cost based on kind of how much they weigh and things like that. And I really wanted to punish that fact in the Pokemon trading card game. Let's look at the deck list. Already here at that deck list. First, starting us off with that Grimmsnarl. Its first attack being the only attack we're really going to want to be using. That Shadowy Knot for only 1 psychic energy, 50 times. This attack does 50 damage for each colorless, count in our opponent's active Pokemon's retreat cost. So the idea of the deck is we're trying to just really punish our opponent for having high retreat cost in their active Pokemon, or if they don't have a high retreat cost, make them have a high retreat cost. By playing cards like Spidops EX with that Trap Territory ability, your opponent's active Pokemon's retreat cost costs 1 colorless more. Has an attack that we might be using depending on what matchup it's going to be. Wire Hang for a grass and a colorless energy, 90 plus. This attack does 30 damage for each colorless in your opponent's active Pokemon's retreat cost. So could be helpful as a backup attacker in a pinch, and it really kind of just goes really well with that Grimmsnarl being able to make the retreat cost higher and being able to do damage kind of based on the retreat cost as well. And then, of course, we're also playing cards like Gravity Gemstone. As long as the Pokemon this card is attached to is in the active spot, the retreat cost of both active Pokemon costs an additional colorless. We don't really care what our retreat cost is, but we really want our opponents to be as high as possible. So Gravity Gemstone is a great fit as well. Then, of course, we're playing Calamitous Wasteland. The retreat cost of each basic non-fighting type Pokemon in play, both yours and your opponent's, cost 1 colorless more. So hopefully we can get 2 Spidops EXs in play, get a Gravity Gemstone going, and a Calamitous Wasteland, and then really being able to get that retreat cost to 4, 5, maybe even 6 or 7 retreat cost would be incredible. But some of the other key cards I really want to point out here, we are playing 1 copy of that Rabsca with that ability Spherical Shield, prevent all damage from and effects of attacks from your opponent's Pokemon done to your bench Pokemon. I'm looking at you, Dragapult. You could play Shaman in this deck if you really wanted to, kind of cutting the Rellor and the Rabsca, and then you have an additional slot. Could play maybe a second Techno Machine Evolution, maybe even play a second copy of Boss if you really wanted to. Mew EX. The world is yours. Do whatever you want. Also playing 1 copy of Fezandipiti EX because Flip the Script is insane. 4 copies of Iona and 4 copies of Arven. 1 copy of Bosch for the supporter count. 4 Iona and 4 Arven just felt like the right choice. Iona for that constant disruption. And then Arven to help us get set up, finding an item and a tool. 4 Buddy Buddy, 3 Rare Candy, 2 Counter Catcher, 2 Night Stretcher, 2 Nest Ball, 2 Ultra Ball. And then 1 Hyper Rowan for the A-Spec of choice. Now, Hyper Roma being the A-Spec is because hopefully I can find my Morgrems very quickly, or being able to just kind of evolve things in this deck is going to be very important. So we can find our Morgrems and our Spidops EXs and even our Rabsca and just to be able to evolve very quickly, especially if our opponent, if we're going first, on our second turn, we can be able to hopefully Hyper Aroma, find everything we need, and then evolve them on the following turn after that. But we also have Techno Machine Evolution in here for that Evo play going second. 1 Super Rod, 1 Northern Vessel, 2 Gravity Gemstone, 1 Evo, 2 Calamitous Wasteland, 4 Luminous Energy. And the reason we're playing the Luminous Energy here in the deck is because it provides every type of energy, but only 1 energy at a time, as long as there's no other special energy attached. So the chance we're going to be attaching 2 Luminous to a Pokemon is pretty low, but Grimmsnarl has that 1 cost psychic energy requirement, so Luminous Energy fills that very quickly. And then of course Spidops EX just needs a grass or whatever other energy, so we have 3 copies of psychic energy and 2 copies of grass energy as well. But for Luminous just felt very flexible between both Grimmsnarl and Spidops, so it felt like a no-brainer to make sure that that was in there. Now let's jump into that gameplay. Already here at the coin flip, we are gonna elect to go second, trying to hopefully pull off a really nice TM Evo play would be really cool. If we were going first, we'd try to go for the Hyper Aroma play, but either way, it doesn't matter. We play 1 Evo, 1 Hyper Aroma, kind of for either situation. But going second, I feel like it's the nice choice because most decks in our format right now really want to be going second. However, our opponent's going to be playing Charizard EX, it seems like, or at least Charizard EX in the deck. So we're going to be leaning a little bit more into that Spidops EX to be able to hopefully hit for some weakness into their Charizards. But let's see kind of what we can cook up here. If we're attacking into the baby Pokemon, like the baby Charmanders and stuff, our Grimmsnarl's not really going to be doing a lot of damage unless we have our tool attached with the Stadium in play and having at least one Spidops in, kind of in play. Then we'll be hitting for 200 or 250 damage. But if not, we're only hitting for like 50 to 100. So kind of where Grimmsnarl falls a little weak, Spidops typically tends to pick up in that regard. So I feel like the pair is very nicely together, and they pair very well together in that kind of way. But we're going to start off with Buddy Poffin here, grabbing an Impidimp and a Budew here. And then we also have an Artisan in play as well, but we don't really need that. So we're just going to go Buddy Poffin again for another Impidimp and a Tarountula. So we have Rellor on the active spot, 2 Tarountulas, a Budew, and 2 Impidimps in play. Our hand is not super great, however, but if they end up just attaching another energy and then steady fire breathing, they can just take a knockout on this Rellor just kind of very quickly. But they're going to Rare Candy into a Charizard here. Infernal Rain. Going to be able to come down here. Going to get some energies into play. Going to try to just throw some fire energies out onto the field here. Probably going to put one to the Charizard EX and a couple maybe to the benched Charmander, unless they're going to put them on the Charizard EX here. And I'm thinking the reason they're doing that is because if they need to retreat out of this Charizard, they'll still have 2 fire energies attached to the Charizard EX, so then they won't have to worry about powering it up or attaching any energies or anything like that. So they're trying to end this game pretty quickly, it seems like, by just throwing up a Charizard and saying, you don't have it. But we're going to put up our Budew here. We're going to get a Psychic Energy attached to the Impidimp. Use our Artisan here. Gonna grab ourselves, it looks like probably a second Budew, just in case of the KO this one. We have one in the back. And then we're going to Counter Catcher and pull up the Pidgey. So Counter Catcher, pull up the Pidgey here. Itchy Pollen for 10 damage onto our opponent. They only have 2 cards in hand here, so their hand's kind of a little bit of a slower hand. We have the item lock established, so trying to find things like Ultra Ball or anything like that is going to be a little bit tough on them. But they're going to go Arven here, finding an item card and a tool card. That Buddy Poffin they just grabbed is going to be completely useless. But they're going to grab Maximum Belt here as well. Going to attach to the Pidgey. Kind of makes sense. You don't really have any sort of reason to attach to anything else right now. I guess maybe if you Rare Candy into something, you could try to KO my Spidops. But at this point, they probably have no idea what I'm even playing. So, Itchy Pollen for another 10 damage. Onto their Pidgey here. Going to keep that item lock established. Probably if you really want to maximize the maximum bite, you would just attach to your bench Charizard EX, technically. But like I said, they probably have no idea what I'm playing, because when you see an Impidimp that's not Marnie's Impidimp, you're probably confused more than ever. So our opponent here going to play another Arven, it looks like here, just kind of get some more stuff out of their deck into their hand here. Itchy Pollen for another 10 damage onto our opponent again. Keep that item lock established here. We're really kind of struggling for a top deck here. We're hoping maybe to find an Iono so we can get something established in that regard. But just kind of a bit of a dead hand. This has definitely not been a great hand. I've had a lot better hands with this deck, but I feel like this gameplay really kind of showcased both how Grimmsnarl works and Spidops works, at least together as a pair. So another Itchy Pollen for 10 damage to that Pidgey here. One more Itchy Pollen, and we are going to be taking a knockout just from Budew alone. So onto our opponent here. They're going to get that Pidgeotto, so they are going to be able to retreat out of their Pidgeotto here into a Charizard EX. Going to evolve into another Charizard. Unfortunately for us, Infernal Rain going to come down here, get some energies in play here. Going to be able to just kind of throw at least 2 onto that other Charizard EX and then maybe 1 onto the Charmander. But they're going to throw 3 onto the Charizard EX. Not really sure why they're kind of throwing them in these directions, but that's neither here nor there. We are in a position where if they KO this Budew, hopefully we can find ourselves into maybe a Fezandipiti and then try and just flip the script and getting some extra prize cards. So our opponent going to go up into the Charizard EX here, Burning Darkness for 180, putting us to a 6-4 split. So we're already falling behind, unfortunately, in the prize race. We're going to throw up our Budew, try to keep the item lock just kind of established. We're going to Rare Candy into that Grimmsnarl here. Going to be able to have that Shadowy Knot kind of ready to go, but I'm not too sure that's what I want right now. So we're going to grab another Tarountula. We have that Grass Energy attached to on the bench. We're going to be able to Counter Catcher, pull up the Charmander, Itchy Pollen for 10 damage. Going to go to our opponent's side, saying, hey, you don't have the energy, hopefully, because you have mismanaged them very poorly in this match. with putting them to the Charizard EXs the way you have. But it kind of works out in our favor because we're able to kind of keep this item lock established and kind of keep forcing our opponent to have to find all these extra pieces. We're going to get a Spidops EX off the top here. Going to be able to evolve our Tarountula into a Spidops EX, making it so now they really can't retreat into anything. They're going to have to rare candy into a Charizard here to be able to even get energies onto this probably. And then take a knockout probably on the Budew here. It would put them at a 6-3 split. And then we have to try to follow up with KOing with our Spidops potentially. But our opponent here going to attach that fire energy here, just kind of hoping they don't have any sort of Charmeleon evolution that can go into it or anything like that. And they can't rare candy into the Charizard like I mentioned earlier because we have kept them under the item lock with that Itchy Pollen here. So there's going to Blazing Destruction, discarding their Artisan here, attach the Luminous Energy, going to be able to retreat out of our Budew here into our Spidops, Boss's Orders, pull up a Charizard EX, going to be able to Wire Hang for 360 damage. Wire Hang being able to do more damage based on the retreat cost as well, which is pretty exciting here. So going to be able to hit weakness on that Charizard EX, and of course going to be able to keep that retreat cost very, very high. And honestly, that might be the reason why they actually put so many fire energies onto their Charizard EX, is because they were really worried about the Spidops play and really worried about having to retreat out of something and just not having the energies to do so. That could make also a lot of sense as well. So super odd for our opponent here. Gonna put here a couple pieces back in. Couldn't catch a good split. I think it was an energy and a Charizard EX for sure. Just trying to power up some more stuff here. Burning Darkness for only 240 damage, however. So we are going to be able to evolve our Impidimp into Morgrem. Going to be able to attach that Psychic Energy. Calamitous Wasteland. 360 damage. Going to be able to take another 2 prize cards here on that Charizard EX. Going to be able to put us to a 2-4 split, getting Iono and Arven off our prize cards. And now we're in a situation where we have 2 Grimmsnarls set up, so we're going to hopefully be able to kind of do some more damage with that, but they're going to be able to probably take a knockout on our Spidops. All they have to do is just attach to energy, and then they hit this thing for weakness and take a knockout. Even if it wasn't weak, they would still take the knockout for that 30 damage. So really being able to kind of punish us for the weakness in this matchup a little bit. If Radiant Charizard was still around, we would be in a heap of trouble. But they're just Blazing Destruction actually, so we are going to evolve our Morgrem into Grimmsnarl, retreat out of that Spidops, attach the Psychic Energy or Grass Energy to the Tarountula, rip the Iono, go Rare Candy into Impidimp, and then Shadowy Knot for 100 damage, taking in another prize card here. This isn't really what Grimmsnarl is quite used for. You really want to punish things like our Troodon EX with that huge, 3-4 retreat cost on a Pokemon, and then you kind of put the Gravity Gemstone on it, making it cost 5, and then 2 Spidops, or at least 1 Spidops, putting it to 6 or 7, and then we're hitting for like 300 damage, right? But Iono for our opponent here, going to put us to only 1 card, going to be an Impidimp, unfortunately. Not really anything we're quite looking for. But our opponent here, going to Buddy Poffin, try to just fill up the board with something here. Going to put up that Rellor on the bench here. Going to hopefully maybe retreat out of this into maybe a Cleffa or something. Maybe Grasping Draw, but if they do that, then we're kind of Shadowy Knotting for 50 damage and we're taking a knockout there. So our opponent really needs to find some pieces here to kind of pull themselves out of this game. Being able to take 4 prize cards with our Spidops on 2 Charizard EXs was definitely the turning point in this game. But Shadowy Knot for 100 damage. Going to be able to take our last prize card on that Charmander here. Really being able to kind of just punish our opponent for not only playing Charizard, but also really making it harder for them to retreat, which is I feel like why we saw our Charizard opponent putting 4 energies on their Charizard EX, because they were worried that if they need to be able to retreat out of this Charizard with that Trap Territory ability, making our opponent's active Pokemon retreat cost an additional. It's going to be 3 to maybe even 4 retreat cost, and they didn't want to get something just kind of stuck in the active spot. Let's jump into that outro. All we're just going to go for today's video. If you guys are enjoying the content I've been making stuff for the channel, do me a favor, leave a like, smash the subscribe button. I would appreciate it. We're really close to hitting that 1K subs. So if you think you're subscribed or you would like to be subscribed, just do me a favor, scroll down and just check. Like I said, we're getting really close to 1K. But I'll make sure to put the deck list that I played in today's video in the description below, ready for copy paste into TCG Live for you guys as well. And of course, it'll also be posted in the Mega Blitz Cove Discord, like it always is for every deck list that you're going to find for every video I make here on the channel. But before we head off, I want to give a huge shout out and a huge thank you to all of my awesome channel members you see here. They continue to support the channel even further by joining the Trainer Club here on the Mega Blitz YouTube channel. So thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. And I'll see you all in the next one. Peace!